Hello, hello.
What's up? What's up, people?
Ain't nobody on there yet. Before we get hold. Maybe pull it down a little bit. That's good.
I think it's good.
Okay. Can't really see my outfit, but that's fine. All right, because somebody was on there on me. It's a little too high. Don't you laugh. Hi.
What up, Deborah?
What up, Kels? All right, let's get started.
Well, it's 6:01.
Maybe because
Eastern.
when I wasn't on, they seen. Did you say Eastern?
Yes.
Oh, okay. What standard time too?
Eastern Standard, 6 p.m. Eastern right now. All right, well. Guess we
Wait
can get
another minute.
started.
And then
Yeah.
we can get started.
Wait one more minute.
Hey, maybe on the other link. Kelly, was it 2 different links? Because I did this one at the last minute. I just hit the one that said live. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody else.
Thank you.
Make sure nobody's texting. Thanks, Kels. Guess we can get started.
Yeah.
All right, we get started.
All right. Started. Yeah.
So tonight's episode, first of all, we want to say thank you for coming back week after week. Thank you, Kels. We greatly appreciate you.
Yeah.
And the rest of our dedicated supporters. So that being said, so tonight, as I was scrolling through social media earlier, I thought of a topic, and Tobias agreed with the topic. Marriage etiquette 101. Okay. So I feel that it's a must that we should have proper etiquette being a husband and wife.
Yeah.
Right? And Tobias feels the same way. I also feel as friends, family members, there should be a type of etiquette. And Deborah, you know how I feel about this, on how you conduct yourself when interacting with a married couple, right? So I think a lot of times things get away from us, or a lot of times I don't think we're really taught on how to conduct ourselves as we should as wives, and how we should conduct ourselves as husbands. So we're here just for basically a little reminder, right?
Or an educational part of it.
Educating people on how to really conduct themselves.
Yes, when dealing with couples.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to get started with the first thing that I thought of. How do you greet a married couple?
Yeah. So greeting a married couple is acknowledging both people, because a couple is just what it sounds like, a couple. It's not just you're greeting one person. If you're walking up to a couple, then you're going to greet the couple. Or if you greet one person, that can be looked at as a disrespect.
Very disrespectful.
It could be looked at as being sneaky.
Very sneaky.
Some sort of, you you have some sort of malice towards the person that you
Mhm.
didn't notice or
Mhm.
recognize. So the etiquette would be to acknowledge both people and
Mhm.
not just one person. I think you are on the wavelength. But what do you think about that?
So remember, I showed you a video and I had reposted it. Of, it was an older lady and she was giving like etiquette 101. And
Yeah,
she was saying some of the issues regarding how people greet couples. The
yeah,
first thing is first, and some people may not like me after today, and I really could care less because it's from love and it's from really experience. Hey, what's up, George? The
so
first thing
fam,
is when you interact, and not just a married couple, just with people in a relationship, period. The first thing you should do is hug the person. If you're a hugger, or the couple that you're interacting with are huggers, right? And this is something that you do, you should hug your same gender first. Okay? Which means if you're a lady, you should be hugging a lady. If you're a male, you should be even giving a handshake or a hug to the male, right? What I see people do is they're really quick to go hug somebody's husband, but they barely acknowledge the wife. I find that to be very disrespectful. And I think you have to watch how you conduct yourself, because a lot of times you can give off wrong signals that you may not really be aware of, you know? And it's not just women, men do it as well. You shouldn't be
yeah,
so quick to go and run and hug someone's wife when the man is right there, right? And I always tell people, always do anything you do has to be reciprocated, right? So think about it if it's the other way around. When it comes to this marriage etiquette 101, never do anything that you don't want done to you, right?
right, correct.
If I don't have a problem with Deborah, Deborah's been in our life for a very long time, right? Deborah's my closest friend, right? That's the bestie. So Deborah knows my expectations. She knows how I conduct myself, and I don't have to worry about Deborah doing anything that would be considered inappropriate. But
Okay,
Deborah also knows how far to go. You understand what I'm saying?
right.
Because it's proper etiquette, and she's a little older. But even I find with people that are older, and I'm talking about even with 40s and 50s, they still conduct themselves as a single person or as being disrespectful. And I say that because you don't want it done back to you. And usually what you do, you get back. So that's where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah, I think that long as you say hi to both people as far as the couples are concerned, I think everything is good. I know I've heard with the person you were talking about on social media,
Mm-hmm.
they say you greet the same sex first
Mm-hmm.
and then you greet
Mm-hmm.
the opposite sex. That to me really doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that it should be is where you're greeting both people.
Mm-hmm.
When you're greeting the person you know, so if you're a female and you're greeting the man who's a person you know, and the man is with his wife, you if you haven't seen him in a while, I can see you being excited and be like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" You know, and
Mm-hmm.
giving him a hug if you know him like that. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? And then immediately you should be addressing the woman. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? I think there shouldn't be a gap or delay. So what I mean by that is you shouldn't run up to the man, recognize him, greet him, and then start a whole conversation without saying hello or introducing yourself to the woman
Mm-hmm.
or what have you. If the person is not introducing themselves and it's on the spouse to introduce their, it's up to the person to introduce their spouse to this individual coming up and saying hi. So, for instance, if I got a woman that comes up to me and says, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while, Tobias. What's going on?" They give me a platonic hug.
Mm-hmm.
She should immediately say, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, extend her hand and say, "I am such and such, and I know Tobias from X, Y, and Z. Let's say we worked together at one time, or we completed the project over a month period, right? That increased company's revenue by two
All
two
right, you
point
got to
five
get into
million
the
dollars."
revenue. We
But
ain't doing all
I'm
that.
just saying it increased.
Right,
We
right.
did
Yeah,
some
work
sort of
closely
project,
together.
right?
Right,
That we
project
worked
management.
together,
Okay.
something. So that person should be saying something to Tony right after they say hi or greet me.
Mm,
If not, if the person is not taking it upon themselves to have the proper etiquette
mm-hmm.
that Tony is talking about or that we're talking about, it's on me to say something
Correct.
immediately. Like, "Hey, this is my wife, Tony. Tony, this
Mm-hmm.
is Sandra. And babe, we worked together on this project for three
Mm-hmm.
months straight. and accomplished a goal that had a tight deadline or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on me to do that. So it's also on the person that's the spouse as well. So it's
True.
not just the individual coming into the situation, but it's also on your spouse as well to be that person that introduces you to this friend or what have you. I'm gonna let you pick up from there because
So-
I got a lot of steam from that. So I'm gonna just slow down and let
Oh,
you
okay. All
speak
right, a
on
lot
it.
of steam. So,
That's right, a lot of steam.
so George put, I don't even go into my brother's house if he ain't there. And that's good. Not to say because you're always
Right.
welcome into our house, George, regardless. However, I understand why you don't. It's a sign of respect. You know, you want everybody to feel comfortable. You are a male, I'm a female, you know, Majesty's a female. So yes, and a lot of times we do things not to say to offend anyone, but just to avoid any type of confusion.
Right.
You understand?
Exactly.
So when we're saying things, it's not about insecurities. It's not about people afraid to say anything. It just, like you said, the devil causes confusion.
Yeah.
Wait, I think I can't see, but it's true. So that's why it's very important that we conduct ourselves certain ways. So I'm going to get into the second one that I thought about.
Okay.
Don't ever embarrass your spouse publicly.
Right.
Right? So that's for married people, right? Because a lot of times people joke, right? We joke all the time. But you should never, because this is not just about other people, it's about the spouse, like you just mentioned too. It's up to the spouse to say to that other person, listen, right? You should, this is such and such.
Right.
But a spouse, when conducting themselves too, marriage etiquette 101, you shouldn't embarrass your spouse. One thing, the first reason why we know is evident. One, you never want to make your spouse look a certain way in front of people, right? That's embarrassing to them. That can hurt their feelings. Also, you're supposed to be together as one unit. So why would you even want to do that? I've seen it done many, many times in different relationships. And that's something, again, these are just tips to keep us on point. Sometimes we do things inadvertently. We don't even realize that we do things just for day to day. But watch how you interact with your spouse in front of others, because people are watching, right? And they really they're learning as well. Because if that's someone that admires you or your children, they may think this is the norm, and it really shouldn't be the norm, doing something that's going to lead to hurting your spouse. You want to add to that?
Yeah, we did a show on,
we did,
not embarrassing your spouse, but that's why I brought up, if the woman knows me, then I should be introducing you as well.
I agree.
Because that woman, if she intentionally is not saying anything to you, she's doing what you just said. She's watching and learning to see if there's an opening or opportunity for herself, maybe.
That part.
So now, so it's on me to say, no, there is no opportunity.
Hey, 20 years, you did that. I'm telling you, Deborah, right? Oh, sorry.
We ain't married 20 years. You married 19.
How long we been together?
20. But 19 is.
You want to go there?
I already went there.
Oh, okay.
And I came back.
Oh, come
back. But anyway, it's on me to let that person know there is no gap, here. There is no way you can fit into this puzzle. So I think when you say that, don't embarrass your spouse in public, that's where I was coming from with it as well. And you have to understand that there are people watching, like Tony said, and it's people that you're not even realize watching what you're doing. So if you're doing things in front of people, make sure you don't mind them seeing what you're doing, right? So if you're going to sit up there and say something, understand that everyone is hearing what you say. And it's important to be mindful that what you say can possibly embarrass your spouse, possibly. So if you're saying something, you're going to have to, they say it these days, stand on business. You're going to have to be able to stand on what you say. So if something sounds controversial or a little weird to other people, you have to be able to say, yeah, I'm saying this, not necessarily to embarrass my spouse, but I'm saying this because this is what I think. This is on my mind when you say X, Y, and Z. So only thing I'm saying is that when you do something in public, make sure that you're understanding people are watching you and you want them to see what's going on. You're not hiding anything. You're fine with them seeing what you're doing and saying at that point in time. So I think if you keep it like that, you have less of a chance of embarrassing your spouse in those situations. But yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one. Saying please and thank you. I think as married couples, people in relationships, we don't say it enough. We can go to a restaurant, or if we're interacting in the business world at work, and we'll say thank you, right? I think a lot of times we can be take things for granted because you're so used to seeing your spouse every day, and it's your norm. But make sure that you be polite, right? Because again, your spouse should be the closest person to you, right? This should be your best friend, right? So if you can say thank you to the woman at the restaurant, if you can say thank you to the man that's holding the door for you when you enter into a business establishment, you should be able to say thank you when your wife cooked dinner, when your husband put gas in the car, even though it's things that are routine and it's things that will be your norm. But make sure that you're implementing just regular manners to say please. It's nothing wrong with saying please. I think we get away from that, the things that once drew us to our partner, and we just, kind of like, oh, well, that's, you should be doing that, as a husband, or you should be cooking as a wife, or you should be taking care of the car as a man. No, we all have feelings, we all have emotions, we all want to be treated a certain way. So make sure that you implement marriage as for marriage 101. Please and thank you.
That's a good one. I think what that boils down to is just feeling appreciated by the spouse.
Okay.
And there's many things you can do to feel appreciated. Remember, thank you and please and everything is great, but they are words. It's good to hear those words, but they are words. For me, actions speak much louder than words. So you can say thank you, that's great, but what is going to accompany that thank you as well? What are you doing to show this person you appreciate them? It's a lot of action that goes into what we call expressing love. And I like it as where I like to hear when Tony appreciates I do something for her. Of course, everyone does. But now, what are you doing in return, right? It should be when you're in a marriage or a serious relationship, in my opinion, it should be a challenge to outdo the person as far as appreciation is concerned. And if my wife does something for me, I want to do something back, right, for her to make her feel appreciated as well. Maybe I can't top what she's doing, but I can do something that says, well, I appreciate you as well. Could be simple gestures, again, actions. I could bring her some roses home, right? She loves roses. She loves flowers, period.
I didn't get no
But I
flowers
could
this
do,
week.
yeah, you didn't get them this week. But the point is that a gesture, doing something, is also showing that you appreciate them as well. So if you're not a person to always speak like that, that's fine. But just show your appreciation. I think that goes a long way.
Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Mommy. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you being there. Bonnie said, yes, good topic. Very big on manners. I have one that I think is going to hit home for some people, and they may not agree with, but because I had mentioned it to one of my other sisters, uh, communicating with an ex without sharing that information with your spouse. Okay, the enemy can be very crafty, right? And usually, what the enemy does, it comes in ways that knows you're attracted to things that you like, right? Kind of disguised, right? So when you're interacting with someone who you had past relationships with, right? Or have been intimate, or you just really had some deep feelings with that person, and you don't share that with your significant other, that opens up opportunity, one, for your spouse to be blindsided, or it opens up for this individual to think that they have something over your spouse's head, right? So never do what you don't want done to you. And I'm talking about whether it's on social media, whether it's a text message, whether it's a phone conversation, whether and some people have a lot of exes, right? Sometimes you may forget that you even dealt with a person. Sometimes, it's set. But at the end of the day, if I've ever had a conversation with one of my exes, because they used to find me on social media and different things like that. Now, what I can say, my sisters and my family know, my exes have a lot of respect for me, and I'm very grateful for that, right? And they respect my marriage, so they never have gotten inappropriate or never have gotten smart. They usually do things like put hearts and appreciate, or things like that. However, I always share anything with Tobias, and I've asked him to do the same thing when we first got together, because your significant other should never be blindsided. You want to add to that?
Yeah, it's all about, just again, it goes back to respecting the person. What we basically began the show with is showing that you have a respect. See, when you're contacting exes and things like that, and your spouse doesn't know.
Well, not contact. They can be trying to contact you.
Like, well, whatever. Yeah, because you said
any
that if you're in contact with an ex, and
I didn't say you contacted. What I'm trying to say, if a person like hits somebody up on social media,
which okay, so just one thing of contact,
or email, or text message, that should be shared.
Right. That should be shared. Okay, so I had the wrong idea, but the point still remains the same. It still sounds like you're being sneaky, right? Because you're hiding something.
Correct.
And this is not to say that if you meet people or you see people or someone compliments you, you have to run and tell your spouse immediately. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that if you had a relationship with someone in one way or another, especially romantically, that should be shared with your spouse, because that's something that they should know is going on, right? And the question is, why is this person contacting you? Like, what do they possibly want? And then that's it. Unless you hear about the contact further in the future. But it's not to say that if you see someone, you have to run back and tell your spouse, oh, some person saw me and they complimented me on my clothes. Some person saw me and they tried to talk to me at the gas station. Like, that's really irrelevant. You understand? Because that sounds like you're trying to have your spouse feel jealous, right? Because what's the big deal? So what? You're a nice looking person, right? People want to always try to talk to you. You probably can't even remember things like that.
Yeah, that's doing exactly.
So the thing is,
we're not saying that. We're talking about interacting with somebody you had a relationship with, and that's the topic.
Right. When you had a relationship is the key phrase here, having or had a relationship.
Right.
But when there's someone that's just a random person that compliments you or say you look good or tries to talk to you, that's not anything just to bring them, because that may happen a few times a week. No one cares about that. I care about if you're giving that person some play when they tell you something like that. That's what I care about. Other than that, I expect you to get compliments. I expect that, because you're a good looking person. You put yourself together.
Everybody's
properly.
not good looking.
That's
Everybody don't put themselves together. We're giving advice for people all together. Remember,
beauty's in the eyes of the beholder.
True, but everybody's not good looking. We're gonna be real.
Okay, but beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. And the thing is that what I find interesting and what attracted me to my wife may not be the same for you.
Right.
So everything I'm saying is that, just the bottom line, if your ex contacts you, I think you should let your spouse know about that. If it's just a random person giving you compliments or trying to talk to you, I don't think that's a big deal.
That's doing too much.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go on to the next one. Never talk about your spouse's weaknesses to your friends, male or females. Do not talk about your spouse's weaknesses to your friends. Okay? Let me say this. All right. So people, again, what we just mentioned, people look for things that are wrong in relationships. And once you point out the areas that this person is weakened, you're giving that person too much information about your relationship. That's number one. And then also, that's supposed to be your best friend. Why are you talking about them in a negative way to your friend? And then a lot of times you share information to your friends that can't give you advice. What are you telling them that your spouse can't do? Because a lot of times what they're doing too is taking notes. So whatever areas that you think is a weakness, for them it's okay. Oh, she doesn't do such and such, but guess what? I can do such and such. Oh, he doesn't do this. Oh, well, guess what? A month later, you keep talking and talking. That individual, don't be surprised if they're interacting a little bit more with your spouse. You just have to be very careful. Again, I said the enemy is very crafty on information that you share. A lot of times we talk too much. A lot of times we're venting to the wrong person. When you go ahead and vent to someone, and everybody that knows me, I have a selected few, right? And everybody knows nobody's talking about my husband, right? So certain information I'm never going to share. You understand? I don't care how close you are. You will never, ever hear me say negative things about my husband because I already know that's how the enemy gets in. But you have to make sure that you have that strong, solid foundation, because once you start that talking, number one, everybody knows everybody. Number two, you never want someone else from the outside looking at your spouse in a negative way. Okay? Yeah, you want to answer?
Yeah. That's interesting right there. When you speak with somebody about your spouse, that has to be a trusted person, a trusted individual that you know if you left the house in an emergency and your friend was there with your spouse, nothing would happen. That's what I'm talking about when I say you totally trust this person.
Mm-hmm.
Information is very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
People make you pay for information. This is why you have to go to college and pay for it. So just like Tony said, the information you give to someone, they may be waiting for a month. Some people are more diabolical than that. They'll wait for years
for opportunity.
And they'll compile all of this data and use it for their best interest. So that's what I have to add to that. We don't have a lot of time. I can get more into that, but I don't want to take up the time with what we have here. So
okay, all right. For my Christians, right? Because a lot of us were raised in different, I would say different religions, but we were raised that if you have any issues, sometimes you may want to go to the pastor, right? So marriage etiquette 101. When you go to the pastor because you're in need and something is going on within your relationship, make sure if you're talking anything that's negative regarding your spouse, make sure your spouse is present. Because a lot of times, again,
good one.
The enemy is very crafty, right? And people play on your weaknesses. So if you're sitting there complaining, even though this is supposed to be a person, not just a pastor, it can be a bishop, it can be a minister, it can be an elder, whoever it is of authority that you're going to, because you are now vulnerable, right? So you're in this state where you know what, you don't want to lose your significant other. You're going to what you feel is the people that can help you, right? Just make sure when you're sharing that information, because people can twist things, right? People can use things for their own advantage. So just be very, very careful, even when we're talking to religious leaders, that we're sharing information in front of our spouses, because whatever you're saying to someone else, you should be able to say to your spouse.
You're just talking to another person. This really kills me about people going to a religious figure or going to a pastor, priest, or whatever. You don't think they talk? You don't think they talk to their wife about what you just said?
And their friends.
You don't think they talk about what you... These people are human beings. Sometimes they can't understand why you're doing what you're doing, and you're getting counseling from them. They don't even know what's going on.
And some of
And
them
so,
may like your husband or your
and
wife.
and furthermore, they may be so shocked by the information they hear, they have to let it out to someone else. You know, therapists get therapy from other
All
therapists,
the time.
right? They don't necessarily say your name to the therapist, but they're telling situations and problems that they're having issues internalizing, and they need help because everyone is getting help from them. So they need help sometimes. But when they go home, they're saying exactly your name and exactly who you are. So don't think that someone is special, but we like to think they're special, but you're talking to another human being. Keep that in mind when you go to a pastor, some sort of church leader, a priest, a bishop, or a elder, if you will. Remember, these are just people.
Humans.
So Tony has a very good idea with this. Make sure your spouse is present and is able to talk it out with the counseling that you're receiving. You shouldn't be receiving counseling by yourself. You should be receiving counseling with your spouse in those situations, in my opinion.
If it's related to your marriage.
Yeah, they are not certified counselors. They're not certified mental health professionals. You think because they hear a lot of crazy things that they're prepared to tackle a situation with you. They're not. They don't know what to tell you. They're just going off the fly. So just remember when you're going for this counseling with anyone in the church would have you, that's great. I encourage that. But understand that your spouse should be there if it's a marriage counseling that you are having. Shouldn't be one person if there's a marriage counseling.
All right. So just a recap for tonight. Make sure that you always put your spouse first. Make sure that is your friend. Don't talk about their weaknesses to other people. Make sure you don't embarrass them. Make sure you're not having no conversations with your ex without your current spouse knowing. Make sure you're conducting yourself when you see a husband and wife. You make sure you use proper etiquette on how to greet the individual. You never let anyone feel left out. You make sure you stand a certain way. Everybody knows I'm famous for my church hugs. That's because I don't want my breasts pushed upon or my behind pushed upon anyone. And I don't want anybody to feel anything inappropriate. So that's why I conduct myself that way. You don't have to be like me. You don't have to be like Tobias, but make sure you being respectful because you don't want it done to you as well. Okay. Also, like we just made mention about when sharing information with religious leaders, make sure that your spouse is present. And I think that wraps it up. We asked you all to join us again next week. We thank you. And then also remember to use manners and say please and thank you. That is your wife. That is your husband. Appreciate them. Manners go long way.
That's right.
Because the girl in the restaurant, when he give that tip, she's going to say thank you all day. Okay. Whenever the guy with a smile. How much of a smile? All right. So that being said, you may not see Tobias next week, guys. All right. You all have a good one.
All right.
Take care.